Hey, welcome back. Mike Burris here. We're at Spirit Music Meetup. So you found the notation page. Looking at here, really cool little symbols here. A lot of people have struggled with these symbols, and so a lot of my teaching is not interpreting these symbols, but learning the counting behind the symbols. Okay, because I found that you can, once you get the counting and you understand rhythm and you can count, it doesn't take very long to connect the dots. The rhythm and counting is a real problem for people, having the coordination. And then it's just very easy once they understand one ianda to go, oh, those notes, oh, those are 16th notes. Or, you can count eighth notes in So it's all based on the time signature. So if you have eighth notes in 4/8 time, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you still have to know how to count 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And how to play 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever it is. And then the 16 notes are not one ianda; they're 1 and 2 and. So, I'm not going to teach that on the website because you have to use special fonts, but I'll do it on the whiteboards constantly, showing you the type of note that you would have to play. But counting is more important than the notes, because there's a lot of books and stuff on what the note looks like, and you can get that. It doesn't take long. So you want to also really focus on music notation, is this idea of counting we talked about. It's an inside job, so you want to really look at that counting and singing method, so you really understand how to move from the left brain to the right brain. Left brain, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's like the eighth marks on an inch on a ruler. Each is 1/8, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So we came up with a way to count that. Okay, instead of looking at the marks on a ruler, we count it with notes: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Quarter notes: 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 16th notes: 1 ianda, 2 ianda, 3 ianda, 4 ianda. There's 16 of them. We don't count 30 seconds. You could count it 1 da, ida, anda, ada. Just da, d, because you don't know how to count it. So you just say da for anything you don't know how to count. Triplets: 1 ia, 2 ia, 3 ia, 4 ia. Why e and because it's the closest thing to the e and of 1 ianda. Not exactly, because they're thirds. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, not quarters. 0.25, 0.50, 0.75, and 1. So they're not exactly the same, but pretty close. So I counted 1 ia, 2 ia, 3 ia, 4 ia. But you could count it 1 da da, because it's not exactly an e and or not. 1 da da, 2 da da, 3 da da, 4 da da. That allows you to play 16 note triplets. 1 da da and da da. So you divided the eighth note into 3 16ths instead of 2. 1 E, that's 2 16ths. 1 E, 1 da da, instead of just and, that's an eighth note. And 2 16ths, and da da, there's 3 16ths. 1 da da and da da. Or you could say 1 E and whatever is easier, but they're not actually e's and uhs. Remember, they're not exactly e's and uhs. So I talk about counting out there and how to count, and there's some great notation videos on that. Yeah, great ones. About dynamics, playing soft and the dynamic markings for that, and playing figures, how to interpret, how to play those special figures, special rhythms in music. The whole band lines up, called an ensemble figure, or a section of the music. The trumpet, you're playing so they're doing this with the trumpets, and the drummer is going to play over here on the snare drum kind of the same pitch, right? High pitch for trumpet. They play on a tom-tom for a trombone or something. But they're keeping time, they're keeping their beat going. So that's called section figures. So that's what that's about. Tempo markings, fast, slow, what the different markings, beats per minute, learning how to use a metronome, and that's really cool. Then song form, structure, navigation, songs have verses and choruses and interludes and preambles, and they have all these different sections and what they're for and what they mean, and what the drummer is supposed to do in these different sections is different, right? So you have to understand some things. And also how to get around. There's repeats and there's first and second endings, and it can be confusing. Del capo go back to the top, del signo go to the sign, go to the coda, all these ways of doing shortcuts going in the music, how to mark up your music. So go check out that. There's melody versus ostinato. Ostinato is something that doesn't change. So that groove maybe is a time-keeping groove. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. See, I added. So I kept an ostinato going, but in this case, I'm not playing my bass drum. I'm making my left hand play a melody. And I got to keep that against ostinato. So there's a lot about melody versus ostinato. So usually one limb is playing melody, like the bass drum or the snare drum. Sometimes the bass drum and the snare drum play the melody together, and every once in a while the hi-hat gets in there, but usually it's this kind of the hi-hat's adding time, adding emphasis in the time ostinato. It's adding something to that. Or it's adding a special little salt and pepper enhancement, embellishment, by a sizzle here, a hi-hat open there, an open, maybe like for a pickup note at the end of opening the hi-hat. Anyway, we'll go into that. That's all in there. So then I show you the basic rhythms for binary. Binary is when you divide everything in 2s and 4s and 8s. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the beat. Now I'm going to divide that 1 or the 2. I'm going to divide the beat into 2 pieces. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's binary. I divide it in 2 pieces. 4 pieces. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So I divided that into 4 pieces. So it's binary. So you can see examples of binary. And then I give some really wonderful charts. Most books have a few rhythms, a few cool beats, a few cool fills, and I got tired of looking through a lot of books to get a lot of ammo for my gun, so to speak, and a lot of drills to really work my skills out, and my students too. And so I said, I'm just going to create my own charts. And so these are completely comprehensive, exhaustive, every possible combination there is. Nothing like it. I need to publish them. So enjoy them, use them for your educational purposes. Don't try to sell them. You'll get in trouble. So, so there's all these melodies charts out there that you can play on the bass drum, play on the left hand, play on the right hand if you want to do that, and play on the hi-hat if you want to do that, or combinations of limbs. So it's pretty cool. So those are your binary, straight, or flat rhythms. And then there is a document on how to count these weird things we call duplets, tuplets, quadruplets, triplets, pentuplets, quintuplets. It's artificial because it doesn't fit in the regular divide things by 2. Right? Doesn't fit into the divide by 2. It's not an E, one E and or So how do we count them? How do we count them? So there's a whole thing about that. Then there's a whole thing about what's called swung, rounded, or ternary note rhythms. And you can see how they relate to the binaries. Ternary are divided by 3s. We talked about that. One E, one da da. One da da is really accurate because it's not an E or an but E and is close. One E and close, but one da da and da is closer. So there's a whole, all the charts are out there. Every rhythm for blues and jazz and Afro-Cuban you can imagine. You could play, and I love them. They really work your foot out, your left hand out, big time. Anyway, awesome. So I hope you really get into those tools. Those tools will change your drumming, man.